so very We're so very glad that you could all join us for what I hope will be the start of a series of conversations that USADF is having to celebrate, to acknowledge, and to reflect on the successes that the African Union has made since its founding. While we do this, we will continue to reflect upon the common challenges that the continent faces across this globally interconnected landscape. And so for today's conversation, we will continue to reflect on that, but we'll also focus on the role that strategic partnerships play in cultivating and in supporting and funding entrepreneurship across Africa. And really, our point of departure is this. Africa has always been a significant contributor to the world, but we know that throughout much of that history, many of the continent's contributions have not always been voluntary, right? And that's changing. And the U.S. African Development Foundation is doing its part to help drive this change. And as an independent U.S. government agency, which was established by the Congress to invest in African grassroots organizations, in entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises, this is really core to our mandate. And we do this in three ways: using our capital, using our technical assistance, and our convening power. And these tools are critical to the success of entrepreneurs across the world, but even more so in Africa. Now, why is this work so important? In Africa, there are 44 million micro, small, and medium enterprises providing jobs and economic opportunities every day for people across the continent. Unfortunately, Sub-Saharan Africa currently has the highest percentage of fully and partially financed, financially constrained SMEs worldwide, with about 54% of them being unable to obtain vital funding to start and scale their businesses. But what is clear, however, is that there is abundant need for financing, and we also know that where there's abundant capital looking for investment opportunities, you know, there are real opportunities for us to be able to do some really great things, right? But this gap remains, right? But where there are also big challenges, there are bigger opportunities. And with the population size on track to reach more than 2 billion by 2050, there will be huge amount of market potential coming from Africa in the near future. And so really to bridge the funding gap and to ensure African entrepreneurs are able to meet their potential, innovative financial structures must be used by those who are invested in the economic success of the region. And that is why USADF is determined to invest in the future of Africa by focusing on population segments that demonstrate promise, but have been previously underrepresented. And one of the ways we do this is through strategic partnerships that leverage our own capital. We pursue these partnerships and deploy grant capital in catalytic ways to maximize efforts while creating opportunities for our partners to co-invest in grantees alongside us or after USADF investment. And that's really the goal, right? The goal is to use USADF grant capital to strategically crowd in other forms of capital, whether it's debt or private capital, to enhance the ability of USADF funding to grow and scale enterprises. And with that, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and introduce a few people who are going to be joining me to have that conversation. And these are our strategic partners. And we're going to be all speaking on video. So Iruka should be coming on video shortly, and Pauline should be coming on video, and then our colleague Gaston. But what I'm going to do in the meantime, while they come on video, is to provide a little bit of background on who they are and provide some information on their bios. Starting with Iruka. Iruka Ndubuzia is the Director of Partnerships at the Tony Elumelu Foundation, TEF, and she's a leading, TEF is a leading philanthropic organization that is empowering young African entrepreneurs across all 54 African countries. And Iruka and her team are responsible for the mobilization of public and private partnerships that will contribute to the foundation's scaled impact. And a strong business acumen and marketplace knowledge has enabled her to successfully negotiate and finalize high-level multi-party transactions with a number of C-suite executives and other stakeholders. So, and Iruka is passionate about democratizing opportunities for the underserved. So, Iruka, can we see you? Are you on video? Can we see you? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, Kwasi, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. So next we have Gaston Kwa. Gaston is a corporate banker at Citi Cameroon, where he was recently appointed as the Associate Vice President and Relationship Manager for the banking, capital markets and advisory team. Gaston has over a decade worth of experience in corporate and investment banking and sales and commercial financing. He has worked with Citi since 2014 in various capacities, including as a management associate and as a senior analyst. Gaston, can you hear us?
Hi, Kwasi.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone.
We see you. Excellent. Very good. Very good. And last but certainly not the least, Pauline Mbaya is joining us from Stanbic Bank. Pauline Mbaya serves as the Executive Director and Head of Stanbic Kenya Foundation. She is an international development professional with over 20 years of experience across Sub-Saharan Africa, with leadership experience across various organizations, including the UN and other international development organizations and philanthropic institutions, as well as the private sector. She's responsible at Stanbic. She's responsible for directing and overseeing all policies, strategy, and objectives and initiatives related to the foundation's activities in Kenya and in Sudan. And Pauline is an Aspen Global Leadership Network Fellow, as well as a certified market systems practitioner and a founding board member of UNDP's Impact at Africa Network. Pauline is joining us right here. There she is. You can hear us and see us?
I can hear and I.
Excellent. I think we are getting ready to start. I'm going to jump right into it. First, very welcome to our very esteemed panelists, and thank you so very much for agreeing to join us today to have this very, very important conversation. And I'm very excited to be having this conversation with you all. I'm going to jump right into it, but before I do that, just a couple of very quick housekeeping items for folks who may be joining us online. This video is being recorded and will be made available after the session is complete. And then secondly, I want to remind the audience that we will have an opportunity for a Q&A. So please type your questions in the chat window, and I will direct your questions to our panelists as and when. And of course, if you want the question to be directed specifically to one of our panelists, please let me know as well in your question, and I will do so. Excellent. So I believe we are ready to get started. So with that, I'm going to start. I'm going to go with you, Pauline. First of all, let me start with you. You wear two hats within Stanbic as the leader of the foundation in Kenya, and also have a full appreciation of the banking landscape across East Africa and Africa at a high level. What role do strategic partnerships play in accelerating entrepreneurship in Africa from your perspective?
Thank you very much. I'm changing devices here, and thanks a lot, Kwasi, for that question. I think from where we sit at Stanbic, I think very much driven by the SDGs. SDG number 17 is crucial. The need for developing and advancing our continent is great. We cannot do it alone. So it is our belief that strategic partnerships play a crucial role in helping us advance the development of our continent. And when we mean what we mean by strategic partnerships, they come in one of many forms. It can be strategic partnerships with institutions such as the US Africa Development Foundation. It can be strategic partnerships such as research institutions, as well as strategic partnerships with governments of the markets where we operate, that help us shape the agenda of our interventions. Specifically thinking of Kenya and the region, the wider East Africa region, part of what we are doing is partnering with government at national and county levels. Beyond partnering with government, we are also partnering with private sector. Being a foundation that is owned by institution, we do have a large portfolio of clientele. It is that clientele that we partner with to advance the development agenda. And finally, the community at large. The community, of course, needs our services. As you put it, there is a huge number. Kenya alone, 94% of our GDP comes from the support of SMEs. So to the extent that we are able to support that sector, we'll be able to, and with partnerships such as yourselves, have a lot of impact.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you for that very much. And I will pass it on to Gaston now. As a representative of City and your efforts globally and in Africa, what kinds of partnerships are most effective in supporting the growth of entrepreneurship in Africa?
Thank you very much, Kwasi, for the question. Kwasi, I would first of all start by saying that the challenges the world face are so huge that no single organization or individual or even particular sector can resolve those. And which is why given the footprint we have in the world and our 200 years of experience enabling growth and economic progress in communities around the world, we've been able to partner with people who are really from different sectors, from the government, with our client and people in the communities in which we work. And the partnerships which for us have proven to be effective are first of all partnerships which are long-term. Long-term in terms of there's a commitment from all the parties to not only being based on immediate sort of like results, but also committing to doing something that will build the community over time. The second thing is the type of partnerships that have proven effective for us are really partnerships where there's an alignment in values between all the partners. So you really need to have partners who are committed to sort of achieving the objective that you all want to get. I think we've seen this in our partnerships with be it the International Rescue Committee or even the USADF, TechnoServe and others with whom we've been working on a global basis. So you need to get those type of partnerships where you actually spend more time talking about the outcomes of the project rather than talking about where will this logo stand or where are we or other things that are not really very pertinent to that. And then the third thing that has made of partnerships which are effective, we've been able to see on the continent, is that the participants or those people generally called beneficiaries should be at the heart of it. So you don't come with sort of like your solutions to impose on them, but rather you're making them co-creators, and you sort of City and the implementing partners, we are all acting as co-creators because, in this thing, problems or the challenges that our continent face, especially those of unemployment, are sort of like a puzzle, and each party holds a piece of the puzzle, which when brought together gives us a big picture. So those are the three things. We need a long-term commitment, we need an alignment in values, and it should be centered around the participants and not only on the organizations which are bringing this to the fore.
Thank you very much for that, Gaston. That's an excellent answer. I'll move on to Iruka at this time. So Iruka, with TEF's experience supporting micro entrepreneurs across Africa, how, from your perspective, can strategic partnerships benefit all parties, including entrepreneurs, the investors, and the community stakeholders? What say you? You're on mute.
My apologies. So the biggest benefit about that is that you save time, that you don't waste any time reinventing the wheel, right? You have people on ground who can do this. We have structures in place. We have the manpower in place. We have the ideas. We have the concept. We have the program that works and that has been proven to work. At the foundation here, we've been doing this, for quite some time. We started with a 10-year commitment to fund 1,000 entrepreneurs each year for the next 10 years. But to date, we have funded 18,000. How did we do that? That's way ahead of our target. How do we do that? By partners who came in to join us to say, let's do this. A US partnership, it's one good way, the USADF. came in to join us, just join our program and fund entrepreneurs. What does that do for us? It accelerates the process, right? The need is enormous, obviously, without a doubt. We all know, like you said earlier in your opening, that the need is enormous. And these partners help us affect lives quicker. At the foundation, we started this a while ago with all the applications in the 20s of thousands. Now we have hundreds of thousands of applications. Last year in 2022, we had about 280,000 clicks of applications on our application platform. This year, just a year later, we have almost 700,000 clicks. What does that tell you? That there's need for what we do. And we have the database and everything to do it. We have TEF Connect. So with all that we have in place, it's very, very important that partners come into the different continent and find those who are doing this, join us to do this. That's the best type of partnership. Obviously, like Mr. Gatson said, it's important that they are like-minded partners. It's important that they're committed to value create, to co-create value to meet a desired goal. So those are the kind of things that we look at when looking at partners, is people who are ready, not just give it lip service. I want to help Africa, just who actually want to step in, deviate from the norm of aid, deviate from handouts, and get ready to work with people who have programs that work, who have systems that are tried and true. So once partners come in with that mindset, as opposed to trying to create their own process and waste a lot of time and resources in the process, it's best to join people who are already doing this on the ground, who have boots on the ground all over Africa, to make sure that it's implemented appropriately.
That is such an answer that really resonates with me, and I couldn't have said it any better. But I'm going to pass it on to Pauline here, and in that vein, Pauline, just coming off what Iruka just said, how can we encourage more collaboration between entrepreneurs and established businesses in Africa?
I think a couple of things. One of the things that's required is that alignment that my fellow panelists have spoken to. Alignment of mission, alignment of purpose. But beyond that is that each party realizing that it is a win-win situation. So if it is the private sector is realizing that they cannot do it alone. Profits alone are not sustainable. We have to bring the other businesses up. So by us working together, then we can achieve a common objective. It all speaks to the agenda on sustainability. How do we come together as a collective, using one another's strengths, leveraging one another's competencies, be it the scale, be it the presence in the continent, and together work to achieve a common goal.
Well, thank you for that. I just want to remind our panelists and also our audience here that for our audience, if you do have questions, please feel free to share them in the chat window, and we will get to them as and when you do. But my next question goes back to you, Iruka. What role do you think that philanthropic organizations play in supporting these kinds of strategic partnerships for African youth, particularly as you think about the youth bulge and the issues that the continent is facing? What role do you think philanthropic organizations can play, and even increase in playing that role?
So I'm going to expand that beyond philanthropic organizations. So I think it should be, what role should everyone play, in getting this done? At the foundation, our founder, Mr. Tunedimedo, has this concept of Afro-capitalism, which basically says that the private sector has a huge role to play, in liberating Africa from bondage of aid, so to speak. So the role they have to play is to, first of all, like we said earlier, understand what they want to do in the continent. So very, very clear, very, very deliberate in what we're trying to achieve here. So the private sector, we can't do this alone. So when you talk about philanthropy, we can't do it alone. We need the private sector. We need the public sector also to do that. So the concept of Afro-capitalism, just makes that very clear, that both the public and private sector have an important role to play. Working together, they can actually create meaningful and sustainable impact on the continent. So everybody has a role to play, every business, the government, and that's why when we look at our partnership we have at the Entrepreneurship Foundation, it spans all sectors. We have government, we have global development groups like you guys as our partners. We have the EU, we have national governments, we have the EU, we have all kinds of, we have private partners also. So it's not just for philanthropic organizations. The work, like I keep saying, I can't say it enough, the work is the numbers. The numbers we get a clear indicator that the all hands need to be on deck, wherever you are. The key is to be passionate about seeing African entrepreneurs empowered, about seeing them scale their businesses, about seeing them get funding for their ideas, about seeing them get mentored and trained, and all these things I pointed at, things that we actually do and have structures to handle the 20 Million Foundation. So all hands need to be on deck, not just philanthropic organizations. Everybody has a part to play for us to succeed at doing this well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Gaston, coming up what Iruka just said, what do you think should be the measuring stick for success of these partnerships as we support entrepreneurship in Africa?
Thank you very much again, Kwasi. First of all, the measure of success varies depending on which industry or which sector we find ourselves in. But in reality, this is how it used to happen in the old world, because more and more now views are converging. In the financial industry or maybe in typical business style, people will look at results from the bottom line. But more and more with implementation or integration of ESG principles or responsible banking principles in the way a business is done, there is no argument that looking at success only from the perspective of maybe the income or how much the people we've implemented the projects for are getting, it's not a good measure. And if we want to look at how successful a partnership will be, first of all, we'll look at the outcomes, the intended outcomes on the lives of the participants. We also have to see if the outcomes are really short-term or long-term, because the outcomes have to really be long-term. Because as you know, really the development, it's a combination of effective states and active citizens. And if your project is coming in maybe to take the place of government in a way, or sort of like to take the place of the active citizenship by actually just giving out handouts like Iruka said, it's going to destroy sort of like even the local fabric. So first of all, looking at what's the outcome, is it short-term or is it long-term? Secondly, are we actually seeing the participation or implication of the persons that are to be involved in this process? And then thirdly, are also the implementation partners getting value out of it? Getting value out of it in terms of, if I take an example of one program that we run, which is called Volunteer Africa, it's bankers come to Africa, to maybe Uganda or to Kenya, work with these micro entrepreneurs in Ombale or Nakuru, but it's also the bankers really learning. Are they understanding the local context? Are they understanding how emerging markets function? So it should actually be a win-win in terms of Pauline had mentioned for all the partners. So that's how success is measured in this case.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very much for that, Gaston. We have one question from the audience, and I'm just going to throw it out there and feel free to respond to it. I'm not sure that is applicable to everyone, but we have a question that says from somebody who says they've been working with female entrepreneurs in Senegal for 4 years, and 90% of the goods are sold in the US market, both ag and handcrafted goods, and they are wondering how they can benefit from some of the services that you all offer, and in order for them to expand. And this could be a question that can go into anyone, so feel free to respond.
So I mean, can I respond?
Please.
So the beauty of what we do at the Element Foundation is that we are present in all African countries, all 54 African countries, and we have programs. So this person can actually, if they have never applied before, they can apply to a program, because we do fund ideas, businesses, either to scale or to get started or to start. Beyond that, though, after like when you apply, you go through this long process, right? We have the application process, which I told you is hundreds of thousands. Of course, we can't fund hundreds of thousands, and not everybody's actually qualified. So there's a scrutinizing stage of that process. So we go through the applications. We narrow it down to the best applications with the viable business ideas, and we'll put them through a 12-week business training sessions. This is all online, done on our wonderful tefconnect.com platform, which everybody is welcome to go take a look at. So after that training, during the training, there's mentoring as they go into the training, because we know entrepreneurship is not always intuitive, right? We'll have bright ideas, doesn't mean you can make money doing that. So we're giving you tools, to succeed. I mean, how do you lead? What's the business plan? How do you write it? What do you need? How do you plan for your finance? All those things that seem quite basic, but it's not intuitive to, to business owners or entrepreneurs. So you go through that phase. After that phase, you can write a business plan. So you can write a business plan. Again, there's another, I guess I should say, another cutoff at that point. Not everybody gets through. And then when you get through the business plan, there's a fun part where you get to pitch that plan to us. Why are we doing all this? We want to make sure that by the time you get to the end of this journey, you are good to go. That you have a fighting chance to be a lifelong entrepreneur, to succeed in that idea, in that venture, in that business. So you get through that, the pitching phase, and then we have the funding. So if you make it through, you get funded. But we don't just fund and say, here's the money, go have a good life. We also mentor you through that process also. We also get, second stage, what we call second stage funding. So like somebody like this, maybe they're doing well, we funded them before. We have partners who want to see that happen, who have gone from accelerators to incubators and all that good stuff. So we do all that. So this young person can actually look into that. We also have partners who are solely focused on funding women. We just have a wonderful one with Google. So check us out, check out the website, get on tefconnect.com and sign up. You never know when there could be a call for more funding that you could actually be part of, even though you're not part of our original. So we have partners who just kind of say, I want to fund women in East Africa, North Africa, whatever it is. I mean, we're that, we can, because our goal is to make these partnerships work. So we're able to do bespoke, I use the word bespoke arrangements with funders, because funders have different focus. We have one going on right now all about green. We have some that just want wash, so some just want women. So that's the beauty of what we do at the Tony Foundation, is we have the structure and the data. Don't forget the data point. I mentioned earlier that we have about 1.5 million people in our TF Connect. So that means if you call today and say, I want X amount of entrepreneurs in Botswana doing sanitation, we can mine that data and get you that number. So to answer the question is yes, go ahead, tefconnect.com is the largest, largest digital hub in Africa. And beyond what we can do for you is also a huge networking platform. So you can actually talk to other people who are doing what you do, either by your sector, by your part of the country, and connect with them also, because you need people with like minds to be able to take this journey together. So Absolutely. Check out tefconnect.com and hopefully you'll find your tribe in there.
No, that's a great answer, and actually leads into the next question that I had, which I was going to direct to you, Iruka, about creation of supportive ecosystems. I mean, one of the things that you said, which makes a lot of sense to us, is this idea that we can't do it alone, or TF can't do it alone. Do you want to expand a little bit more about the types of supportive ecosystems that we should be creating for entrepreneurship in Africa through these partnerships? Would you want to speak a little bit to that? Because I think you've answered a lot of that, but do you want to add just a little more context?
Yeah, so basically, it brings it back to tefconnect.com. Like I said, it's a very lonely journey. If you ever had a business, it could get quite lonely or feel quite lonely, because nobody gets what you're doing.
Very lonely
your parents, your sisters, your family, they don't get it. But others who are going through the same thing, they get it. So TF Connect is just that. We just don't have the applications there. We have our mentors are in there. Also, everybody who's involved with us are all in there. They have access to it. So networking is a big part of what we provide in terms of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, in Africa. So yeah, TF Connect. Have I said that enough? tefconnect.com.
No, I think we got it.
But seriously though, it's a huge networking platform. And even those of us who are not entrepreneurs, whatever you do, that's why you join, if you're a lawyer, you join the bar association and all that good stuff. There's no clear one for entrepreneurs, but this platform gives you a family, a tribe, so to speak. And you can actually go there, find your tribe, either by your part of the country, part of the continent, either by your sector, either by your stage. Are you in the idea stage? Are you startup stage, are you in the, I want to scale my business stage, you can find people who are going through the same thing. And don't forget, we have mentors, and our mentors are from all over the world.
Mhm.
So you're gonna find somebody who's done what you're doing, and they can actually hold your hand through it. You don't have to go through this journey alone. So yes, we have that support. tfconnect.com.
Thank you for that. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and ask you, Gaston, what are some of the risks that are involved in forming these kinds of partnerships for entrepreneurship in Africa, and how can they be mitigated?
Okay, thank you so much again. There are obviously some risks, especially when it comes to partnering. The quality of the partners matter, and also the traceability of the participants as well do matter. If I take an example of one of our partnerships, which we have in Northern Cameroon, which is shares boundaries with Nigeria, which has been prone to Boko Haram attacks, and also sort of it's as crossroads, right? This is actually a place that's a crossroads between climate change and conflict and all of the other things related to the Sahel region. This is a region that is difficult to access. This is a region with all of the volatility. We did choose a partner that we knew that we trusted so much, and we've been able to get results through that partnership. But now imagine if we were not able to rely on an organization that we knew to do that, because first of all, it's a difficult context. So reputational risks, it's key. It's very important because if you choose the wrong partner, they will get you involved in things which will tarnish the image. There is also the fact that you might not with your idea, but which is not actually what the community wants, and which is why it's key for the people who are participants in this, again, to be co-creators. So there's always the risk of people coming with their all fixed ideas and saying, hey, this will work. And then at the end, it doesn't work. And then the third thing is also the commitment of partners. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, everybody could be all fine. Everybody could be all happy that you're coming in and there's a project and we all be working on this. But it starts to fizzle out maybe along the road. There's also the problem of buy-in. Buy-in in terms of, and I think Iruka said this, that we need to move beyond the philanthropy sort of mindset and really look much more as community investment. In terms of if you're doing this type of community partnerships, it is key for a company like us as well that our employees or our staff have buy-in and actually supporting and actually part of this, like the project I was talking on earlier on. So there's the buy-in aspect, which is key, which some companies do not generally have. There's the reputational risks which could arise, and the fact that and the community ownership might not always be there if the key stakeholders are not appropriately engaged. So those are some of the keys. So active engagement of stakeholders will be a key mitigant, ensuring that we, again, coming back to shared value and alignment in vision, it's one of the things that will help mitigate this. And also ensuring that we are all aligned on what we want to achieve as a company, what we want to achieve with the other partners, knowing that no one can do this alone, and that this should be linked to the company purpose and company mission and values as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for that. Pauline, the next question is going to come to you, and I think it's a version of a question that I've asked before, but really focused on the gender gap. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on how public-private partnerships address the gender gap in African entrepreneurship and support women-led enterprises.
That's an excellent question. So what are companies doing? I think gender has now become mainstream. Before it was downstream, now it's a mainstream agenda. So you find a lot of companies now have that, and I'll specifically speak to our bank and what we are doing. It starts with a big pronouncement that we deliberately want to take along the 50+1 of the population that exists in Kenya. In Kenya, women make over 51% of the population, so leaving them behind on any intervention doesn't add value, it doesn't make economic sense. So most institutions have made deliberate commitments to support, not just by lip service or do good, but to practically demonstrate. So specifically for the bank and also for the foundation, we have come up with programs that are targeting women. We have our flagship program, which is known as Stambik Dada. It is a program that was started with a very high level commitment of 20 billion Kenyan shillings. It has had an uptake. It has what we call financial services offering as well as non-financial. What are people looking for? Very similar to what Iruka has said in terms of TEF Connect, we create a club. It is a club of women-led businesses, women-owned businesses, or people who aspire to run businesses. So much so that then other people come onto the bandwagon. So you start a movement to support women, to empower women in whatever shape, promoting women at board levels, promoting women to do cross-border trade, and that then becomes a movement. So from where we sit, we have seen the value. It has a lot of economic sense. Beyond having an economic sense in the African context, it also has a social sense. We say that you support a woman, you support a community. So by empowering women, we believe we are supporting the community. We believe we're able to take children to school. We believe we're able to have better lives because they also take care of nutrition at home.
Right.
And therefore, the multiplier effect of supporting women has become mainstream for us. At group level for Standard Bank, I think we are running the first in partnership with the UNECA. We do have a fund that supports women fund managers. And again, just to amplify the work that we are doing in support of women.
Absolutely. No, that's a very great answer. I love that. Thank you very much for that. And Gaston, I'm going to ask the same question that I asked Pauline, but from a slightly different perspective. How can public private partnerships support the growth of entrepreneurship in rural areas across the continent?
Rural areas really are sort of like the breadbasket of the continent.
Do we still have Gaston?
Rural areas do have a lot of like the population, and you do see a lot of population moving to towns and all of that. But I think one of the things that the partnerships that companies and organizations like the USADF could have, it's actually partnering with the people in the public sector as well. First of all, to ensure that the amenities that attract people to town are found in these rural areas, because that's sort of like the pull factor. They need to turn it into a push factor, which will bring people back to the rural areas, which is the first thing. It's very good. I know when people think about generally, when people think about investing in rural areas, we think about plants to tend rather than human beings that we need to invest in. Because when we think rural areas, we think about agriculture or planting or whatever. But we do generally forget that these people, they are women farmers, they are male farmers, they are youth farmers, and we need to consider each of them with their specificity. I think it's Asta Bossorop, the famous economist, who says the needs for women farmers and men farmers cannot be the same. And we need to consider that in our programming and in the way we approach this. So first of all, the government aspect is very key, because we need to partner in such a way that it should be the whole value chain. It should be the whole value chain. So if we're partnering for agriculture, we don't only look at how do we increase yields or productivity of farms, but we also see how do we empower other entrepreneurs to invest in the logistics. Like when people harvest, how do they transport this to the market? How do we invest in storage and processing facilities? We all know how huge the post-harvest losses are for farmers on the continent. But these storage facilities aren't there. Just to cite an example, I think that should have been 2 or 3 years ago, here in Cameroon, the tomato season was so good that these farmers had nowhere to keep the excess. They were actually throwing them away. And for those where it's so inventive and creative, they will go around the neighborhoods, like really forcing people to buy tomato at a price which is 30% less than what they would normally buy. I know what rural areas, again, generally boundaries between the countries on the continent are rural. And therefore, we also need this interconnectivity between countries, and the work the TEF is doing, which is across the continent, I think can also help influence this in terms of how do we not only focus on isolated rural areas, but ensure that those rural areas are connected to other areas. First of all, it creates market for the produce from those rural areas. It also facilitates sort of the attraction for people to go back to the rural areas and set up farms. And it empowers women, which is a key point Pauline was making again, which are also the backbone of these areas.
Okay. Okay, no, that's very helpful, and I know you referenced TEF, so maybe I might just use that as a jump off point to go back to Iruka and really also ask that question, but also from a different perspective, because we know that Mr. Lumulu is a businessman, right? And these funds are not limitless, right? So from your perspective, how can public private partnerships like the ones that we have with you and across the continent that you have engaged in, how can they support the long-term sustainability and growth of SMEs across the continent?
I mean, it's very simple. We have the structure, right? We have the structure, we have people, we have the expertise. All they need to do is leverage our strength and resources. That's all they need to do. I told you about the volume of application that we get, right? So how can we fund more people? So we need the finance to do that. We need financial partners who are committed to what we're committed to. I mean, that's a very simple way. That's the easiest way. Just leverage our resources. Come join us. Let's do this work for you. We've gone through the growing pains of how this is done. We've been around the block a couple of times. So we've got this down pat right now, right? So there is no, I've said this before, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's no need to waste time trying to figure out how do we do this. We are doing this in Africa today. And when I say Africa, I'm saying all 54 African countries, boots on all of them. Even the rural areas, we have people there. We have technical leads, hub leads in all those countries in Africa. We have manpower. We have a great partnership with UBA, who has 20 branches all over the continent, as well as the UK and some other countries. So we've done this, right? I mean, if you're going to interview someone, if you're going to hire somebody, hire the best hand. There's no need getting somebody entry level and just watching them grow. We don't have time for that. There's urgent need in the continent today for help. Not I shouldn't say help. So for empowerment of entrepreneurs. We don't want help. We want to be empowered. What does that mean? They want to be trained. They want to be mentored. They want to be funded. They want to be supported to be able to be, like Pauline mentioned, to drive the employers of labor. Right? So they just don't waste any more time interviewing, researching, trying to build. The house has been built. Just move in. The house has been, we've built the house. Move in and we'll help implement your organization's goals. It's as easy as that. I mean, I think it's very simple. So, I'm shocked when I see people saying, oh, we don't know how to get to Africa. Like, who did you ask? Did you check? Did you do your research? See what I mean? So we are here to help you do that. We are here to implement almost everybody's dream, which is empower Africans. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't waste any time, because every year the numbers get higher and higher. What does that tell you? That means we need more hands on deck, like yesterday. We need much more hands on deck immediately. So funders, stop wasting time. We've got this. We've got this.
Thank you, Iruka. I'm going to go to, we have some questions that are coming in from the audience, but before I do that, I'm going to direct a question to you, Pauline. What social environments are most conducive to supporting entrepreneurship across Africa?
So a couple of things on that. So I think this will talk back to the partnership issue and the role of public-private partnerships. Government, as the institution that has the mandate to work on the social fabric, is a crucial partner. So taking the example of what we said in the rural areas, what we are doing, and I think we are doing this with the partnership with USADF, is working through government to help us see what the challenges are and how, with the particular partnership we have, we can address that. So by having an injection of capital to a company that is supporting, or for example, I'll leave one example that we have worked on that is a success case of the partnership we have with USADF. We support a company that is producing organic fertilizer. We inject capital. What does that do? Starting off with creating 1,000 jobs, they are now supporting 30,000 farmers. What does that do to the social fabric? It enhances the social fabric. And again, coming back to what I did say, it improves the economic well-being. It means they are paying taxes. So one small intervention through a PPP has tremendous effect. You may consider the money given minimal, but the effect that has on the social fabric is enormous. Supporting 30,000 farmers coming from 1,000 just because we gave $50,000 is something one can write a case study on. I'll just use that one example to show you the role of PPPs in unlocking both the social and economic opportunities that exist in the continent.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you very much for that. So we have a few questions that are coming in from the audience that I'm going to share with you all. The first one I'm just going to is a very quick question to Iruka, and they're asking whether the TEF Connect platform, or whether entrepreneurs outside Africa are eligible to join, and whether there are membership fees and so on and so forth. What are the requirements?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's no fee to sign up, but our focus, is on African entrepreneurs. That's our focus. So if you're an African entrepreneur, even if you're not in Africa, you can sign up, and there's no fee just to sign up.
Okay.
But it's for African, it's by Africans for Africans. So it's for African entrepreneurs.
Okay, very good, very good. And the next question, and anybody feel free to respond to this. And this is a talent pipeline question. The question is, most education systems still have roots in Europe and are not yet tailored to the unique needs of Africa. If you agree, how do we create an Africa-centered education model to create a better path for success here on the continent? And this is targeted, this could be, anybody can feel free to respond to that.
Okay, maybe I try my hand at that.
Okay,
I see
thank you.
Wants to speak, but maybe Pauline can take that. Pauline? Okay, so okay, I do agree, but I also think that we're in a world that is which is globalizing, and if in a world that is becoming sort of like a global village, I think the butterfly effect applies everywhere. And therefore, our educational system, I think what we have to do, it's maybe focusing on some of the things that matter most to the context in which we find ourselves. In fact, I was listening to a professor the other day who was saying the problem with the educational system is that some of the courses that we focus on in our university and maybe tertiary institutions are courses of the past. We're talking a lot about climate change, and we're seeing that climate change is an existential threat. But I mean, if you get into, for example, the courses we offer in our university, there isn't a lot of breadth and depth into all of these key things that are key challenges in Africa. And so I think the key to resolving this problem is partnering, partners from the private sector, from the public sector coming together and really saying, what are the key challenges for Africa? How do we resolve this? And who can resolve these problems for Africa? And if we can agree that the solutions that the problems or the solutions to the problems that are faced by Africa can come from Africa, then it is important that we try our hands at things, because there is really, in this thing, there's really no silver bullet. There's really no silver bullet, and solutions have to be contextualized. And I think our educational system as well needs to evolve with its time.
Maybe I can add to that question. So what have we seen in Kenya? What we are seeing is the role of digital in transforming economies, irrespective of the academic background you come from. So what we have is that you may have an academic education that is Western, but when you leverage the power of technology to educate yourself, you can read, you can write, you can go to Google, you can research. Now there's a lot of technology and courses online. We have examples, as you know, Kenya is known as the Silicon Savannah. You have seen that most of nationals in the US, the tech multinational, Google now has an office in Nairobi. Microsoft has an office in Nairobi, and what they call the Africa Development Center. What is this telling us? Amazon is soon opening. What is this telling us? Is that using technology, you can transform the lives of people irrespective of the academic background they come from. We have cases where we have a partnership, a global partnership with Microsoft, where we are training youth from primary all the way to tertiary to use technology to empower themselves. So at basic level, it's digital literacy. As you advance, you learn digital entrepreneur. There are websites you can go and start writing code. Quite a number of businesses or Kenyans now, youth specifically, are coding for companies all over the world, including, which is quite handsome. So technology has brought in a shift. Technology is a transformer. In the region, we are saying technology is going to transform the continent. You can see it in Kenya and product just by the click of used and made in Africa, using the AGOA platform, shipped into the US, shipped into the rest of the world using other agreements. And people are able to make a living just by leveraging the power of technologies. For me, technology is the future. It has been embraced by the continent in whatever shape and form, and it is transforming the continent.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
So for us, can I add to that?
No, please, please.
Yeah, so for us at the foundation, so we have these financial partners, but we also have financial partners in academia.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have case studies of what we do, studied by by academia. We have one with Stanford. We have Cambridge published case studies. And we're also trying to get that curriculum into institutions where you're teaching the African capitalism principle. Because if everybody gets that from at least the college level, you go through your college degree knowing that it's a possibility that you can actually do this. So we are working with that, trying to get our story out through publication, through white papers, and through case studies done by international institutions to talk about the concept of African capitalism and have students learn that either in the business school, either in their elective classes and in college, and be exposed to that concept. Because not everybody gets it. Everybody thinks, you can just get up. But that principle being taught in schools, I think, will also open the eye of the world in terms of what's possible on the continent. So we're doing that through case studies with Harvard, with Stanford, with Cambridge, and some other institutions around the world.
Okay.
Just to get it into a curriculum, into a business school curriculum, even just as a GS, but just so that it's taught as part of education before you graduate, you have been exposed to this concept. We believe that that's going to change, the way you take all your other courses. It might actually change what courses you choose, even what career paths you choose to go to. Just a mere exposure to the concept. We believe that's gonna change. It's gonna be a game changer for education in Africa.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that. We have another question from the audience, and I'm trying to see if I can sort of rephrase it in a way that makes sense here. But they're asking, basically what they're trying to get at is there a way that these partnerships can help increase the value of financial support that is advanced to the entrepreneurs based on the stage of growth, right? And I think it aligns to some of the conversations that we've had. I think you, Ruka, you've talked about it. Gaston, you've talked about it. Pauline, you've talked about it in terms of sort of a graduation model. How do we ensure that the funding is right-sized for the needs of these entrepreneurs? And again, either anybody can take it.
I mean, when it comes to funding, I mean, there's no one size fits all, obviously. Yes. So we can't tell you that 5,000 or 20,000. It just depends on business. We have a process. So it gets looked at, it gets digested. How much do you need? What you're gonna need? So we can't tell you that every business needs X amount to be able to do well. For me, I'll focus less on the money and more on the preparedness to be an entrepreneur, because you can have all the money in the world and still not have a viable business or still fall on your face 2 months down the line. So for us, it's less focused on money and more on preparedness of somebody who can do this journey and do it well. Because it's not easy, I said earlier, it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. You have to be crazy to want to be one. Right. But yet we need that. But we need entrepreneurs to grow our economy. We need the entrepreneurs, to get Africa to the next level. Okay.
And any additional thoughts?
Yes, maybe because if I may. So just specifically thinking of our partnership with USADF, we started off with the objective of actually making the businesses we supported bankable, meaning whatever intervention we had on the technical assistance and the grant that we provided was to help them get ready to receive a loan. What has been the success rate? 100%. Of all the businesses we've supported over the last 18 months with the partnership with USDF, they've gone on to attract commercial funding, and not small commercial funding, quite some good chunk of commercial funding. Others have gone on to attract investments. So I believe from where we sit, The interventions we have with USADF is working. We started to make businesses bankable. We are creating a very healthy pipeline for the commercial institutions just by providing technical assistance and a soft grant. And these people graduate within, some of them in less than 6 months, they're already getting commercial loans and attracting investors. So it's a question again of how you design the intervention, but ours has been a great success to a point where, as most of you may know, some of you may not know, we are now expanding that with the partnership with USADF to 4 new markets. So it's been a success for us.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Gaston.
Yes, Kwasi. So for us, I think in line with what has been said by Eruka and Pauline, I'll take an example of one of the partnerships we have with the International Rescue Community, where we are actually funding, we're actually supporting young refugees who are living out of the camps to sort of like have regain their livelihoods. I would say it's not really about the money. It's actually about them getting the money and making use of the money that is being given to them. And so we've been really surprised ourselves at how much a small amount, a small seed funding that our partners will provide to these people can have multiplier effects in the life of the entrepreneurs, in the life of the community of refugees. So we had a case where this guy was running a tailoring workshop. Before they saw it, the guy had bought a second machine, and before they wanted to see, the guy had bought the third and the fourth, and now also brought in other refugees who were not doing anything, were unemployed, to come to train them, to actually train them, so that they themselves, they go out and create other tailoring workshops. And while he was training them, he was at least giving them something as well as a stipend. And the people he's trained have moved out to opening their own tailoring workshops. And this is how you multiply the effect of sort of like the partnerships that we have. So it's really about building the capacity of the entrepreneur. Financial literacy aspect of it is very important, which is a sort of like a cornerstone of these programs, be it with the USADF or with the other partners that we've been implementing on the continent. Because if they don't know to manage the money, irrespective of how much you give them, they won't manage it well.
Okay, no, that's very good. No, thank you so much for that. And I know that we're quickly running out of time here, so I want to provide an opportunity, maybe 30 seconds or so per panelist, in any closing remarks that you may have, and just really, speaking to, and I think that we've talked about it at a very high level, but the benefits of these strategic partnerships for supporting entrepreneurship in Africa. If you can connect your closing remarks to that, maybe we can start with Eruka, and then we'll go to Pauline and then to Gaston.
It's really simple. I said this earlier. Entrepreneurs are the drivers of economic growth and job creation anywhere, and particularly in Africa. The need for it is enormous. There are a lot of people here who, we're all here, we're all doing great work in that space. But we know that we need more partners, more strategic partners who have the same values that we have in terms of our passion for this work, to join and get the work done. Like I keep telling you guys, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We have people who have boots on the ground to do this. But the need is great, and there are partners, willing to work with you. But entrepreneurs have been our focus, and we're very clear. That's who we fund. That's who we focus, who we empower. Is a clear focus. When there's a reason for that, and the reason is because they are the only ones that can get Africa out of the aid mode, out of the handout bucket, and put us into the empowerment and economic sustainability bucket. That's why we do this.
All right, very
That's
good.
why we do this.
I think we may have lost Gaston, but maybe Pauline, you can your closing remarks, and then if Gaston comes back on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity, USADF. And I think from where we sit, we did say that the institutions you've chosen to have here, USADF, have the infrastructure, they have the resources, they have the knowledge, they have their boots on the ground. It has been done. So what we say in Africa, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So let us work together. Let us make this continent what it is. It is not a continent of handouts. It is a continent that is claiming to be given an equal share at the table. Thank you.
Oh, very good. I love that. I love that. Gaston, I think we have you back. Are you able to provide any your closing remarks? If you are, you're on mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
There you are. Okay.
I was changing my device.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think in a world that is yet to sort of like emerge from the scourge of COVID-19, and we're yet to come to terms with the impact of climate change on our communities, it is evident that really resolving the challenges that we resolve from all of this, including the unemployment in our communities, is a daunting task that no single person can resolve. And this is not something that can be achieved with passive partners from any sector. And we all have to be active partners. And if we are to curb migration, if we are to curb insecurity, if we are to empower youth that become active citizens tomorrow, we must all partner to ensure that entrepreneurship is the thing. And indeed, we've seen that a youth in Africa will thrive even in the most difficult situations, like we saw in the refugee camps, be it in DRC, in Bukavu, or in Northern Cameroon, or as we see in our other partnerships. And it is therefore an imperative for all of us to come together. Partnerships are critical, and which is why the United Nations, when they revamped or sort of like when they transition from the Millennium Development Goals to the Sustainable Development Goals, there was a lot of focus on partnership, because everybody wins when we partner, especially for entrepreneurship. And for the government, when you have youth who are unemployed becomes entrepreneurs, it creates pockets of revenue for the government in terms of taxation, it reduces problems of crime, it creates thriving communities. And it's our mission, all of us, to work towards achieving that aim. Why don't we do it? Let's just do it.
Excellent. I love it. and with that, thank you very, very, very much to our audience, of course, first of all, for joining us in this conversation, and to our esteemed panelists, Pauline, Gaston, Iruka. Thank you so very much for this enriching discussion and bringing in so much depth. And I think it's illustrative of the reason why we are partnering with you, and to the USADF team in the background that is making all of this possible, and the prep for this call and making it happen. Tremendous thanks and appreciation. And I just want to close by saying that, this conversation that we've just had is against a backdrop of efforts that USADF has made, especially over I would say, especially over the last 5 years. Throughout Africa, that has seen us investing close to $120 million directly into 1,000 African-owned, more than 1,000 African-owned and operated entities that has impacted more than 3 million lives across more than the 20 African countries that we're working in. Yes, our work at USADF is aligned to what we're doing, the US priorities across Africa. But what drives this work is the need to create new markets, shared prosperity for Africans by reaching communities that have often been left behind in Africa's growth story. And so whether you represent a public sector or the private sector, or a government agency or an NGO, or a large corporation, or a small entrepreneur, you no longer have to go it alone. And Pauline couldn't have said it any better, right? We have to go at this together, right? And USADF is embracing that shared value to help us build a better future in Africa, with Africans themselves deciding their future. And we want to ensure no one is left behind. So thank you again, Iruka. Thank you again, Gaston. Thank you again, Pauline, for joining us. And thank you everybody else for who joined in this conversation and for your questions. And happy 60th anniversary for the AAU, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kwasi. Thank you.